Hello and welcome back to Cinder and Salt. I am Kristy Sturdivant and I am here today with Candace Bethel. How you doing, Candace?
I'm good, Christy. Happy to be here. How are you today?
I am good. I'm a little bit nervous about the conversation that you want to have. Candace texted me and she's like, I want to talk about the concept of worship. And I was, ooh, trigger, 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 trigger coming up from my religious upbringing, I suppose. But at the same time, that's how we heal, right? As we go through these triggers. So let's talk about the concept of worship. Before we get into it, though, I want to throw some definitions of worship out there. Okay. So I did look real quick, and the best one I found that I liked was from Merriam-Webster, and it is to honor or show reverence for as a divine being or a supernatural power. Everything else that I found was in relation to religion or God as a general, so this one was the most vague, which I like. Not that I'm anti-God, obviously, I just don't particularly use that term. I use the term universe. So, what do you think, Candace? What are your thoughts on worship today?
Well, my thoughts on worship have been they've actually been coming in through a meditation that I do, which is Kriya Yoga meditation. And anybody that does Kriya Yoga knows how strict it is. And for me, it was really difficult when I started. But what keeps coming in and showing up as I'm doing this is that every area of spirituality or religion that I can think of, especially when we go down back into the past, only honors the men and the male religion and all of that. It doesn't honor any of the femininity. And also, if you look back in Eastern cultures, um, when we're talking about male and female, they refer to the body a lot, and they refer to the front of the body as feminine, and also left side and back of the body as masculine and right side. And one of the things that I do in Kriya is worship God and gurus through that divinity. But the only worship that we do is on the back side, and we worship like 8 males. And the more I do it, the harder time I have, and the more this, like, but what about the feminine keeps coming in, and it every single time I'm doing it, it's what about the feminine? And so I've started that's why I started researching, like, well, what about the feminine, and where where do we honor that? And we really don't. So, like, and we've talked about a couple different times, that's maybe something that's coming into our world right now.
That's really interesting. Okay, so Kriya that is Hindu, right? And if I'm remembering correctly, Kriya means like kind of like the flow of life force and is often referred to in the same context as like karma and dharma. Am I right here?
I think
Maybe.
close enough.
Close enough? Okay.
Yeah, well, this is slightly embarrassing. I don't know exactly if it's Hindu, where the very specific origins came from, because that's not what I was studying when I was
Mm.
drawn to it. Um But the Kriya itself is like the practice and like the
Oh.
steps of the practice. So in Kundalini, they do Kriyas, and that's like, but this is a
Oh.
different type. This is not Kundalini. This is Kriya Yoga, where you can't find anything online. You have to go to temple or somewhere like temple to be initiated by someone that's been doing it for a long time. And you can't find like a how to or step by step how to do any of this anywhere. Have to memorize it. They do it over a 2 or 3 day
Ooh.
period, and you can write your own notes, but you have to memorize it, and that's the only way you are taught.
Oh, wow. So it's very ritualistic, very regimented type thing. I've heard of people in the past who are like, yes, I had to do a 15-minute mantra and I had to repeat it every 15 minutes or so in order to really memorize it and embody it. It's something like that.
Correct. It is, you're supposed to do it twice a day, if not 3 times a day. And sometimes you should be doing the meditation itself like 2 to 3 times in a row. And there are very specific meditation exercises that you do in meditation and movement to bring the energy up the chakra lines in a specific way. But it doesn't ever address the feminine. But I would love to know if you're willing to share some of the religious trauma that you still have or hold on to that triggers you.
I can't really pinpoint any specific trauma, but when I think of my religious upbringing, and I mean it wasn't bad or anything. It was just very much entrenched in fear, right? I feel like Christianity in a lot of ways is a very fear-based system, and I think that's probably going to offend a lot of people, but that's what I feel, right? When I was younger, it was all about this is what you have to do in order to get to heaven. If you don't get to heaven, this is what's going to happen. And it was very much like doom and gloom, Sodom and Gomorrah. I remember being very, very nervous when I was a child and praying every night, like, oh my gosh, I hope the rapture doesn't come because I'm not going to heaven. I'm not sure what's going on. And it freaked me out severely. And there were movies that we watched in church that traumatized me. And so this thing is that I felt like a lot of anxiety around it. And then when I got married and I moved away from it, I was like, oh, okay. And it took me a long time to shed it and actually feel much better about it. But I mean, there's still some underlying things, and it's very, it's generational, right? I'm not sure if anybody really believes that, but my parents believe that, my grandparents believe that, and so I'm just kind of automatically in it. And so I kind of feel in a lot of ways I was the first one to break away and be like, no, I don't want to live in this fear-based system anymore. I have to find my own path, which has released a lot of anxiety from my body.
Mm. Yeah. Um, that's actually like one of the biggest things that I hear from people and clients is that like there is a lot of fear. And I also see it. I was raised in this Christian culture in the United States, but I was raised Buddhist and we didn't go to temple. We worshiped in nature. And and I also don't believe that Buddha is the only God. So being raised Buddhist made me look at all types of different religions, and it also made me see how much fear people come from because of control of religion. And that's where that's where I really have a hard time with it, because I believe that God is within us and we are meant to like exude godlike qualities versus worship somebody. And I also believe there's a duality there. So if we're just worshiping one male masculine God, then there's just no room for anything else. And that doesn't seem right to me.
Oh, I agree completely. And I think that was one of the things that was one of my big aha moments was I never felt in the church necessarily. I felt connected to, I guess, maybe something bigger than myself, but in the particular sect, I guess, or religion that I grew up in, it was very male based. You don't really hear about a lot of women outside of like Mary or Mary Magdalene or, I'm sure there was others, but they just I don't remember them, but I didn't really resonate with that until I like started exploring ancient mythology. And I was like, oh, look at all of these goddesses that they worshipped in ancient Rome and ancient Greece. And oh my gosh, this feels so much better in Mother Earth and everything. And so it felt a lot more comforting and a lot more natural for me to do that. And um I feel like over the years I've kind of almost turned, I guess, agnostic, but maybe even more paganistic, where I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. Let's talk to Artemis or let's talk to Isis or whatever. It just feels more natural because when I was worshiping in a church when I was younger, or what they would call worshiping, it never really felt right, as opposed to more communing. I don't like the term worship, it has a lot of heavy
Mm.
meaning behind it. I'd prefer to commune.
Yeah, I agree. And if we're going to worship somebody, I think that we should be worshiping ourselves in a sacred way, not in like an obsessive way. Treating our bodies like earth, like we're one with nature and one with source, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. Like we are as a reflection of that in some way. So everything is sacred around us, and we need to start looking at things as sacred and start with ourselves instead of worshiping things outside of ourselves.
That feels really, really nice because I feel like the further down this path I go, the more this reflection of this divine around me, and the more I put into myself and start taking care of my own energy and making sure that I'm vibrating at the level that I should be, everything kind of just feels more right and it falls into place.
Yeah.
So I like that.
That's how I feel too, and that's why I have so much confidence in these conversations and in this work that I'm doing and that we're doing, is because as I evolve in my energy and I do the work to raise my energy and clear stuff every day and clear lineage cycles and be way more open to being whole, everything kind of just flows in. And I notice that the things in the past, like chapters in the past, like those energies don't even come up anymore. Those people, those things, those experiences, they're not even really allowed in my field because I don't think about them. I'm not worried about them. And it's not something that's in alignment with me. And the more the better I feel about myself, the better everything in my world just starts to feel too.
Mm, I like that. I like that a lot. All right, I'm going to go back to your Kriya meditations and everything, and I think it's really interesting how you are praying to the gods and gurus. And I think guru is a really fascinating term. Like in our society, right, that we look to these gurus to almost save us. And I know that there was a famous book, was it Tony Robbins, that wrote I Am Not Your Guru, and they even made a movie of it and everything. And so I think it's very interesting. What is it in this particular context? What are they saying the gurus are? Who are you praying? And which gods, if you don't mind sharing?
Um, I am happy to give you all of the names and you can put it in the text, but I cannot pronounce them. Yogananda is the only one, and I can't even pronounce the other parts of his, but these are all like yogic paths, like the 8 limbs of yoga and the god gurus that are there, like through it and how it works through your body. And it's supposed to be the highest path to God, guru, of course, through that, divinity of lineage that we're
Oh.
working in. But it's all masculine. And
Okay, okay. I like this. But if you were going to bring in the feminine, do you have any feminine energy, like specifically that we could tie to goddesses or figureheads or whatever that you would bring it in? Do you have any that this is who feels like for this area of my body?
I am working on that
Mm.
because I believe that's what's coming in.
Yeah.
And I want to really study each one because I don't know much about the goddesses. Like they're really new to me, like just trying to find a deep dive into not just Greek goddesses, but I'm looking at all cultures and where they line up because that's just kind of how I work. Like I can't just do one god. I got to have all cultures. So
Sure.
what I'm doing is bringing ones from each of those areas in and kind of lining them up with the energy field that I work with and the energy of what those gods or gurus did to be like anointed in that way, to be looked at
Yeah.
in that way. Um, and seeing how I can bring that together. Like with the human design, we think that Kali is coming in. And I remember saying that and you're like, well, I like Pele. And I really like Pele too. And I didn't even think about that. But so I brought her I put her as well, call into this group. And I haven't decided which one I like for my own body yet. But I am leaning more towards Pele because this is just for the foundational chakra, right? This isn't or not chakra, the foundational field. It's like how we root into the ground, and the closest chakra would be your root chakra. But because she is basically, a volcano power,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I heard once, and it resonated with me, that as women, we have been forced to be mountains. And we have just been sitting as mountains, holding and holding and holding, really, whoever wants to climb up us, in us, around us. And we don't really get to react because it's not safe. But eventually, everyone has a breaking point and they explode from the root up. And the volcano will get let out when that breaking point hits. So in the body, even if Kali is the one that comes in for the human design, in the body, I'm looking at more of Pele because she's just pure feminine earth chaos.
I love Pele. She's one of my favorites. Like I have a 2-foot statue of her next to me to burn all of it away all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think she's a really great one, especially for this time. Kali is, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Kali, but she's really intense. Pele to me feels a little bit more constant and sustainable, long term, right? Like slow and steady lava gonna burn it away. Whereas Kali's, no, get out of my way, which sometimes we need for sure.
Yeah. So I would prefer Pele to be coming in, but the goddess of destruction sometimes needs to come in and destruct before it can all burn away. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. A lot of good goddesses for this. So I definitely want to talk to you because, I mean, that's what I did for my book, Manifesting with the Moon, right? Like I used all of the moon phases and I used gods and goddesses to kind of help bring out that energy. So it's my favorite thing.
Yeah, I would know that if I'd read it yet, but I haven't. So maybe I should do that.
I mean, you could. You don't have to.
It's
That
just
wasn't like
funny.
a self promotion plug or anything. I'm just saying I really like gods and goddesses.
No, it all circles back, right? To something we're
Yeah.
already talking about, something we've already thought about.
Yes, and there are just so many great gods and goddesses across all of the cultures, and they are all the same energy, but they all have like such different nuanced flavors, and I just think it's so fascinating. This year I have been really looking at, I can't say her name because she's a Mayan goddess, like Ishil or something, but she's a serpent goddess, the
Oh,
underworld, and she's really intense. I'm like, ooh, that seems kind of
okay.
fun to get into. And so Yeah.
Mhm.
So many different gods and goddesses and mythological creatures throughout ancient history. It's a good thing to do, right? Not to
Mhm.
necessarily worship, but to tap into that energy.
It is. It's good to just kind of research a little. Like one of the goddesses that I work with is Hecate, and she is goddess of the underworld, goddess of darkness, shedding into light.
Hecate's intense.
She is intense.
She's
And her
intense.
lessons can be very intense as well.
Yeah. I mean, she's that one you want ushering you through a doorway, right? Are you
Mm-hmm.
ready for that next step?
Right. You don't
Such
want
good stuff.
somebody like that's tiptoeing around or all light and gentle because, it's hard to step through those doorways sometimes.
It is. Sometimes you have to be kicked through.
Literally
Been there.
on your
Mhm.
face.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So worship is like a really interesting it's a really interesting concept, and I think a lot of people have a lot of different ideas and ways that they do it, but I think stepping outside of your comfort zone and kind of tweaking your perspective a little bit can be very, very helpful.
Yeah, it is. I think it is. And one of the other ways that you can look at like worship in your life is what are the things that you choose to honor or dishonor? And what are the things that think about brands that have gotten in your head that have created this like type of worshiping that's really just for you to buy stuff.
Ooh, that's an interesting thought. Yes. I think that we low key as humans worship things more than we maybe think we do. And I think that turning the whole term on its head and kind of looking at it from a different perspective would be helpful for a lot of people. I know it's helpful for me. I don't like the term worship. It seems like a chill up my spine. I like to honor.
Yeah.
I like to commune. I like to you
Yeah.
know, gaze lovingly at or something, but worshiping just makes me feel like I'm supposed to be kneeling in front of a statue, and that's not really my vibe.
Yeah, and I would agree. Like I had a problem with worship as well. But I also have the problem I used to really have a problem with the word God. It used to trigger me so much. The fact that I even do like a meditation that what it specifically does is worship gods and gurus is I've gotten pretty far to be able to do that because man, if I would have tried being initiated like 10 years ago and they would have started out with what they did, I probably would have just got walked up and walked out and be like, I already know I can't handle this.
I think it says a lot, though, that you are able to stick with it and be, you know what, this has its place, but it's shifting, and I'm going to help make that shift for other people because I think it's being able to go into this very deep ritualistic mantra and meditation and everything. It's so, so very important. And it's very hard for, us everyday commoners to do that. It's almost like something that you see in movies to do, but I think that is what we all need to move towards, and it needs to be a little bit more accessible and not so daunting. And I think adding in feminine energy is really one of the things that you need to do in order to do that because as females and as the feminine energy, we are all about pulling everything in together and, having almost like a circular spiral mindset where we're multitasking and we have a ton of things that we're taking care of and doing, whereas the masculine is very much, well, I'm going to sit here for 15 minutes and I'm going to say this and don't even think about talking to me, right? Whereas the feminine's like,
Mhm,
well, I got this going on, I got this going on, and everything. You need to make it more organic.
mhm. Yes, absolutely. And also the feminine has been pushed down for so long. We have to have balance. Like, we've been learning this over a long time, is that we have to have balance. And like, even the men have to bring in the feminine, and the women have to bring in the masculine. We need to like tame that shit down for sure, because we've been conditioned in the masculine, and that's why the feminine is so triggering, is because we've been conditioned in the masculine, and nobody really knows like how to feel it, because we've been told that the feminine is just emotional. Well, our emotions are there to teach us things. Like, if we don't just sit in the emotion and feel the emotion forever, it literally shows up in our body and tells us what it wants. But if you're not trained to listen to that, then oftentimes you just sit in this like poor me vibe, and like, that sucks.
I do think that our tendency as humans to kind of just brush off emotions and make them to be this enemy is why we are seeing this influx of diseases and lots of stuff going on in the body and happening outside of ourselves. It's a reflection. But that's a conversation for another time, because we could go off on a whole other tangent with that one.
It is a conversation for another time, because that's what I'm writing my book about, and that is my work. And 100% your emotions are your illnesses and your disease and the accidents that happen in your life.
Absolutely. But in order to tap into your emotions, you have to be still and you have to meditate, which is where we come back to worship. So just think about what your idea is of worship and what you might worship. And that is just putting your energy. I think of worship as, this is what I am putting my energy and attention towards. That's it. It's not super complex. It's not something that you have to sit down and do all the time.
Right. Just pay attention where your energy is focused. Are you like sitting and holding a rock? You worshiping the rock? What are you doing all day?
Yes.
Are you worshiping your anger? Think about it.
Ooh. We can't go on forever, though. So we're going to hit that another time, too. Okay. I think that is what we're going to wrap it up on. We would love to hear everyone's thoughts on this subject down in the comments, and let us know what you think about this. If this is a triggering conversation for us to have and listen to, we want to know that too, because bringing it up is how we kind of shed light on it and heal it. So we want to hear, and we will answer those comments.
We do. We want to pour a little salt in the wound.
We want to burn it. And that is all we have for you guys today. We'll catch you later.
Bye, guys.